Hey guys, welcome back to another famous artist video. Today I'll be drawing Mary Cassatt in a cute cartoon/anime style while teaching you some fun facts you may or may not know. Mary Stevenson Cassatt was an American painter and printmaker born on May 22, 1844 in Allegheny City, Pennsylvania. Though she was a leading artist among the Impressionists, she stood out from her colleagues who did landscapes and street scenes with her portraits. She was especially drawn to women in everyday domestic settings, specifically mothers with their children. Cassatt had her first drawing and music lessons at 7 when she was living abroad in Europe. She was first exposed to French artists Jean-Auguste Dominique Ingres, Eugène Delacroix, Jean-Baptiste Camille Corot, and Gustave Courbet at the Paris World's Fair of 1855, as well as Edgar Degas and Camille Pissarro, both of which would be future colleagues and mentors. At 15, Cassatt began studying painting at the Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts in Philadelphia, despite her family's objections to her becoming a professional artist. But she was impatient with the slow pace and the patronizing attitude of the male students and teachers, so she decided to study the old masters herself. Additionally, during this time period, female students could not use live models like their male counterparts and had to draw from inanimate objects. In 1866, Cassatt moved to Paris and applied to study privately with masters from the École des Beaux-Arts, which did not yet allow women to attend. She was accepted to study with Jean-Léon Giraud, a highly regarded teacher known for his hyperrealism. Cassatt spent much of her training copying artwork in the Louvre on a daily basis. In 1868, one of her paintings was accepted by the selection jury for the Paris Salon. However, the French art scene was changing, and artists such as Gustave Courbet and Edouard Manet were making a radical shift from academic tradition to Impressionism. Cassatt continued to work and submit traditional-looking works to the Salon for over a decade, but grew frustrated and finally decided to work within the Impressionist style. She returned to the United States in the summer of 1870 as the Franco-Prussian War began and could not afford art supplies. She tried to sell some of her existing paintings, but had no luck, and considered giving up art to make an independent living. Soon afterward, her work caught the eye of the Archbishop of Pittsburgh, and he commissioned her to paint 2 copies of paintings by Antonio da Correggio in Parma, Italy. She then traveled to Madrid and Seville and completed a group of paintings of Spanish subjects, including Spanish dancer wearing a lace mantilla. In 1874, she moved to France with her sister and criticized the politics of the Salon and their conventional tastes. Her criticisms led to quarrels with fellow artist John Sartain, who thought she was too outspoken and self-absorbed, stating, "She is entirely too slashing, snubs all modern art, disdains the Salon pictures of Alexandre Cabanel and Léon Bonnat, all the names we used to revere." After parting ways with Sartain, Cassatt observed that female artists were usually dismissed with contempt unless they had a friend or protector on the jury, and she refused to flirt with jurors to gain favor. This led to distress and self-criticism on her part, and she decided to move away from genre paintings onto subjects that would attract portrait commissions from American socialites. However, in 1877, both of her entries were rejected, and for the first time in 7 years, she had no works in the Salon. At this low point in her career, she was invited by Edgar Degas to show her works with the Impressionists, a group who began their own series of independent exhibitions a few years earlier. The works of the Impressionists varied in subject matter and technique, but they favored open-air painting and vibrant, distinct paint strokes with little pre-mixing. Cassatt, having had admired Degas, accepted his invitation and joined the Impressionists. In 1878, she produced some of her most accomplished works: Portrait of the Artist, Self-Portrait, Little Girl in a Blue Armchair, and Reading Le Figaro, Portrait of Her Mother. Degas influenced Cassatt greatly, introducing her to copper engraving, becoming the subject of his etchings and working beside her. She learned a considerable amount of artistic skills from his technique and knowledge. Cassatt successfully displayed her works and profited off of them at the Impressionist exhibits until 1886, where she stopped being an active member of the Impressionists. After 1886, she moved away from Impressionism and freely experimented with a variety of techniques. Cassatt gained popularity for using the theme of mother and child in her work, which she almost exclusively concentrated on after 1900. In 1891, she displayed a series of colored dry point and aqua tint prints, for example, Woman Bathing and The Coiffure, which were inspired by printmaking techniques from Japanese artists. Cassatt admired the simplicity and clarity of Japanese design and colors and tended to avoid black. Though her work was popular with the public and the critics, she was no longer breaking new ground, and her Impressionist colleagues were dying off. In 1911, she was diagnosed with several conditions, including diabetes and cataracts, and had to stop painting after 1914 as she became almost blind. In 1915, Cassatt took up the cause of women's suffrage and showed 18 works supporting the movement in an exhibition. She died on June 14, 1926, near Paris. Today, Cassatt is commemorated for her unconventional and distinct portraits, particularly of mothers and children, making a notable mark on Impressionism and printmaking, and boldly rebelling against societal norms and expectations set for her as a woman artist in the 19th century. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. Please share it with a fellow art nerd, and if you love receiving quality and free art education, subscribe.
If you'd like to support the channel and the creation of free arts education, become a member on Patreon for working files, behind-the-scenes posts, and discounts on our class offerings. If you enjoyed this video, here's a couple other videos you can check out next.